We did the first shows and set the foundation, what has become an industry now, and we ain't getting no love. Why is that?
It's important to understand that what Legs is talking about is B-boys. He's talking about breaking. He's not talking about Puerto Ricans. He's talking about the B-boy culture that is the foundation of hip-hop's culture. It is beyond the shadow of a doubt breaking.
Breaking goes back, as far as I know, talking to founders of the dance, no later than 73. And these are breakers who used to break mainly on top.
So now we hear from track 2, right? And track 2 says that when he talked to who he considered at that time founders of the dance, they were saying no later than 73. And then he said that breaking was only on top. Now, again, this is what he was told. And again, in the exclusive interview that he does with Willie Estrada, he makes it clear that as he began to do further investigation, he realized that a lot of the things that he was taught was not accurate.
B-boying on the floor didn't come out to like maybe the ending of 74, 75, where people actually started going down and breaking on the floor.
I don't know who did it, but eventually somebody went down and stayed down.
So from up rocking, I brought it to the floor. You know, that's why I was so good, because I was, from there on, it just kept going and kept going. Bruising them, brought it out to the Bronx River. Before you know it, there was Zulu Kings. Word up.
So now you hear track 2 say that B-boying didn't hit the floor till late 74, 75. And then they show B-boy Spy, right? And he goes to the floor, right? Top rock to down rock. And then you hear Grand Mixer DXT says these words. We don't know who took it to the floor. I'm paraphrasing. But somebody took it to the floor and never came back up. We don't know who did that.
It was really a combination of sweeps, CCs, which is the side-to-side movements when you're facing front, and steps like the Russian, which look exactly like a Russian. You cross your arms and you kick front. The steps were a lot more basic, and it looked a lot more. If there's a b-boy out there that I would compare old style to, the real old style is Frosty Freeze. When you see Frosty in like Flash Dance and old footage of him, and sometimes he still does it today, when you see his footwork, it doesn't look complete. That looked more like what the original b-boys looked like back in the days.
They used to do a style that I hardly see anyone do, which is more like jerky type of, it wasn't like a 6-step, you know, this is how it goes. It was a little more sporadic and wild spirit, like boom, whip, freezing, hat, blah, blah, you know what I'm saying?
And then with the godfather hip hop, myself, Africa Bambaataa, you had what you call the Zulu Kings.
So we can see that they start talking about this real sporadic style that was out, that Pop Master Fable says, you know, it was like bam, 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 real sporadic. And they said the closest b-boy that you would see doing that style was somebody like Frosty Freeze. But then you see Little Boy Keith, you know, by the water doing that style, right? Then you hear Africa Bambaataa talk about the Zulu Kings. But let's get that story a little bit straight. Right? So the original 11 Zulu Kings, where Charlie Rock is part of that, right? That's not the Zulu Kings that they're talking about. They're talking about the Zulu Kings after, really the baby Zulus with Beaver. The original 11 Zulu Kings were not them. Okay? So here's a little bit of that background.
What I am telling you is that in 1973, we were still black spades. We were very much still black spades. And the Bronx River Organization, which is the predecessor to the Zulu Kings and the Zulu Nation, didn't begin, and this is by Bambaataa's own words, did not begin until the death of Solsky, Ronald Beckel, who was president of the 10th Division. the Bronx River. He was killed by the police along with a number of the Black Spades, as well as a member who was our president, who was also shot in the same encounter but survived. He was the only survivor. That occurred January 7th, 1975. Okay, so just by that, and by what Bam has said and what anyone else has said, the Zulu Nation could not be in existence in 1973. So that's not to refute or anything. I'm just telling you what the chronological timeline just doesn't support that. Okay, and we were still Black Spades in 1973. And I would say the Zulu Kings, which actually precedes the Zulu Nation, because the Zulu Kings came, the Zulu Nation kind of came and resulted as a popularity because of the popularity of the Zulu King. So late 75, maybe early 76, all right? The Bronx River organization definitely could not have started until 1975 because it starts among the death of Soul School.
The organization that later became known as the Zulu Nation does not begin until after the death of Solski in 1975. It is late 75, 76 that the Zulu Kings are formed. And it's not the baby Zulu Kings with Beaver. It's the original. It's the first 5, then it's the original 11, and then later it's the baby Zulus. So keep this in mind when we're talking about these styles that you're going to hear is referred to as the Moreno style. Okay, we're going to put this in its context. There's a certain style that's being done by these particular Zulu Kings, right? This is the real sporadic style of b-boying. Okay, and then somebody said, well, that's the original style of b-boying. Well, we're going to actually see.
I grew up watching more like the Zulu Kings, Beaver. Beaver was like the biggest name in b-boying, period. I mean, you couldn't find nobody better than Beaver until Spy came along and blasted him with Track 2 and the brothers.
I know for a fact that when I went to some parts, it was rare to see a Puerto Rican dancer.
Notice what JoJo says. I know for a fact that when I went to some parties, to some parts, to where? To some parts, it was rare to see a Puerto Rican dancing. To some. Not everywhere, to some. Let's keep going.
A lot of people used to call it like, yo, you know, like the Latinos, you know, Moreno means black, you know, they be like, yo, that's that Moreno style, you know, and that's the original style of b-boying.
Notice what Leg says. He says a lot of people used to call it, yo, that's that Moreno style, and that's the original style of b-boying. He's not saying he called it that. He's saying a lot of people. Who are these people? That's what I want to know. Who were these people? Because I'm saying this for a reason. When I first saw breaking in 75, at its beginning, we called it breaking. I saw black and Puerto Rican b-boys, and I never heard the term, that's that Moreno style. I never heard that. When it was said, they're referring to the Zulu King style. But notice what Leg says, a lot of people. So who are these people? Was this among the breaking community in the 70s that separated these styles and said that what he's not saying is that the first b-boys were black. He's saying that the original style that some people said was the Moreno style. It was the Moreno means black. So let's not put words in his mouth. Let's listen to what is being said. Okay, that's the original style of b-boying. All right, check this out now. Now let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. If the original style of b-boying is the Moreno style, which is that sporadic style, let's take a look at something else.
Swipes in the air that you see legs do. That was originated by my partner, Spy, who I consider the best breaker I have ever seen break.
That's undisputable. I mean, whoever knows breaking, that name has to come up.
So Spy comes up. Look at the style that Spy is doing. Look at that style. That's not the sporadic style. But you say, but they brought that in later. That's a different style. Listen to this next statement.
He's one of the first B-boys ever. And he was known as the man with 1,000 moves.
So the one thing that people love to do with this documentary is take bits and pieces. It's like when you're reading the Bible and you take a verse out of its context and try to put it somewhere it don't fit. That's what people do with this documentary. They take statements out of their context to put it somewhere else. And they say, look at what Legs said here. It's the Moreno style. Therefore, Legs is saying that black kids are the original B-boys. They're the first ones who did it. But look at what Legs says in this statement. He introduces Spy and he says, this is one of the original B-boys, one of the first B-boys ever. What does he say?
He's one of the first B-boys ever.
This is one of the first B-boys ever. If he's one of the first, there are other people within that first class. He's one of the first B-boys ever. Batch is also in that first class. And black B-boys are also in that first class. You understand? So I find it funny how people will never take this clip where Legs says, this is one of the first B-boys ever. They won't use that clip. But you can't ignore that clip. Because Spy, a Puerto Rican, is one of the first B-boys ever. And his style is not the sporadic style. Again, what I saw was black and Puerto Rican B-boys. And they were both breaking. But there was a sporadic style that wasn't complete. And then there was the style that other B-boys were doing. And Spy being one of the first B-boys ever. Let that sink in.
And his name is Spy, so I want to bring him up here so y'all can see. Come up here, man.
Spy was a legend to me because he was already called the man with 1,000 moves. I used to always go to mom and pop's social club or nightclub, whatever you want to call it. It was a basement, really, on Crotona Avenue, and I used to go there a lot to try to see Spy. And then one day I saw Spy there, and I saw him. I'll never forget. He had this red hat on, and his afro was just like poofing right out the side. His hat was to the side, just like this. And that's why whenever I go down right now, whenever I start breaking, I got a hat on, you know, this is just like straight Spy.
When they would tell me stories about Spy, I would look in the sky and be like, trying to picture myself with it, trying to put myself there, you know, like in the gymnasium, in the church. And when I saw him break, I was like, wow, you know. It's just like this energy around a person, you know what I'm saying? There's an energy around people that, you know, the stories are the stories. There's a reason why they're being said. There was an energy around him. He was mad clean and mad smooth. It was just like he didn't have to do anything really incredible. He did whatever he did, it looked sweet.
Track 2 was like little ladies' man back then.
You know, track 2, at one point they said he was the best.
JoJo and them used to be off the hook, for real. They used to be like traveling. They was like gypsies in a way, because they used to find out wherever they jamming at, go there, and whoever was dancing over there, they would knock them off, for real.
Them boys were just so incredible. They were like stars coming out. These brothers would come out dressed, you know, not like bums like a B-boy was. Usually all bummy dressed. These guys would be dressed nice, and boom, they'd come out and they were like stars. Yo, there goes JoJo, there goes Spy, there goes Jimmy D. There goes all of this track 2 right there with his big old track nameplate. Those are the brothers that made up the moves. All the moves that you see nowadays come from the root of those people.
We end with the most powerful statement from Mr. Freeze, Rocksteady crew. He said, those are the brothers, I'm paraphrasing that, created those moves. All of the moves that you see come from the root of those people. What people? The people that he just finished mentioning. The Puerto Rican, the New Yorican B-boys. So make no mistake, as you want to dig and pick different parts out of this documentary, I encourage you to really think about what is being said and what is not being said.
This is KRS-One with the Bronx boys. Boogie said, it's all good. This is how it goes. This is the Budapest chapter being laid down right now. My man's in the building. He got down with us out there, actually, where it really mattered. It was dope. It was dope. It was dope. So shout out to the whole crew. You already know what it is. Zoom in on that. That's what it is. Yo. That's right. The Bronx boys, rocking crew. You know what it is.
The music, most importantly, is the music, from bomba plena through boogaloo, to Latin, funk, and salsa and stuff like that. And when you hear hip hop, you hear some influences of like, wow, that beat, that sounds like a bomba plena beat, or oh, that's like a boogaloo, that sounds like Ray Barretto. Oh, I like that. Especially when the b-boys and b-girls, when they get down, they listen to that beat, they listen to that break, and boom, there goes the congas.
Because a lot of the people who were in the early years were not only from Puerto Rico, but from all of the Caribbean islands. So you had those sounds, those drum patterns, and even the lifestyle, you know. In Jamaica, they had the big speakers and everything, and in Puerto Rico, you got chicken fights, and you got a whole bunch of different things. That energy comes into it. You know, the domino playing with the kapiku, that same energy, you can see it in a b-boy. If you walk around the Bronx, even today, you see how Boricuas interact. You're gonna see how a b-boy may move a certain way. A lot of the most noteworthy graffiti writers are all Boricua to this day. Call me biased, but most of the hip hop legends are all Boricua.
Yo, this is Veronica Starr. I want to give a shout out to TBB, TBG, the longest running crew in history, BX, Bronx culture, B-boy culture, 50th anniversary. Be there. Peace.
You have African Americans that are break dancers, but we were mainly poppers and lockers. The Puerto Ricans took the up rock style, which what we were doing also, and made it their own, using a salsa and everything, and gang fighting into it. You know, so I would say that they have a big influence in break dancing.
Well, because hip-hop is known primarily as an African-American art form, but it's not an art form at all, it's a culture. And it's not an African-American culture to me, it's an expressive culture that was developed by South Bronx inner city youth. It wasn't so much a color thing as it was a class thing.
To give a big shout out to TBB, my man Johnny Juice, and about a couple of other guys that's friends of mine.
Being a TBB member, we do our best to change our community. We try to find out what our community needs.
Right now, you know, a lot of these brothers that come, and sisters, actually, let me not forget the women, that come from literally all over the world are our sisters, man, through TBB, TBG, global family. You know, we embrace them and accept them, and we use the arts, everything that we grew up with back then, to help them stay out of trouble, man.
And now, TBB is a vehicle for social and cultural change. We try to initiate this throughout our communities and globally via the many chapters where we have.
Congratulations to the Bronx Boys Rocking Crew, celebrating their 50th anniversary. Keep doing what y'all doing. Salute from DJ CMBB Jungle.
They got brothers from the Bronx to call the Bronx
the Bronx Boys, they are the original B-boys who started this in the old days too. Right? You can say something.
Hello, people. Let me just say that I bow to every single hip-hop legends today. If you Google Batch TBB, you will learn, with all due respect, people, where Rocksteady came from, where New York City Breakers came from, okay? And I'm not taking anything away from these legends. I love Crazy Legs. But at the end of the day, if you do the Bronx Boys Rocking Crew history, you're gonna learn something. I've never been here before, and I feel like I'm in the Bronx. I'm from the boogie down Bronx, people.
I met Jimmy Lee, and Jimmy Lee was, they were all taggers. They used to go to the train yards and tag, and since Jimmy Lee became my best friend, we used to start hanging out together. And in '77, he took me up to Creston, and I always say, "Where do you go at night?" And he used to always laugh. He says, "Come on with me." He took me up to 184th and Creston, and I was like, "What's up?" He says, "We're in TBB," and I was like, "TBB?" You know, they had their shirts with their name, and I was like, "What is that all about?" And he was like, "Yeah, we were a tagging crew at first, and now we're a rocking crew." And I was like, "Wow!" So I was like, "I want to be down with you guys." So I started hanging out with them, and it was me and JoJo and Trace, and oh my God, I could name hundreds of people that we used to all meet up on Creston Avenue, and we all were part of TBB. TBB was the thing in the Bronx, and that was it. That was the biggest group that I knew in the Bronx, and they were the best rockers out there, so I wanted to be part of the best, and I learned from them. The top rock, you had to learn your top rock before you could hit the floor, so that was one of the places to learn. And like I said, over the next months and years, I took advice from other people. They showed me different things, and like I said, I just got better. I'll never say I'm the greatest because there's so many really, really good guys back in the day. Rubber Band, oh my God, Chicago, Kid Rock, all of these guys, Spy, Shorty. I can tell you, there was some really good guys back in the day, man, and I missed them. Those are the days. I grew up like that, and those are good memories, so. And again, if I didn't mention you, I apologize. Not that I'm almost 60, so my memory is a little bit bad. So I can remember what I can. And I know there's going to be somebody who says, "Hey, that's not a little bit right." So if I made a mistake or I said something wrong, I apologize. I can blame it on my age. But there's some things you'll never forget. And I'll never forget the Bronx. I'll never forget TBB. I'll never forget Rocksteady Crew. I'll never forget the feeling that it made because, growing up poor and impoverished, rocking was something that brought us together. It brought us together. It made us feel like we were a family. A lot of kids came from broken homes. They didn't have moms or pops or anything. They literally lived in the streets. And when we came together, we were like our family. And we looked out for each other. We didn't let nobody mess with us. We made sure we ate. We made sure we drank. We made sure we partied. We did everything together. And that's what was my family. Those are the memories that I have. And that's what made me happy. And nobody could ever take that away from me. So that's why I never worry about fame or fortune or none of that. Because in my heart, your memories are the strongest, realest things that you have.
50 years of hip-hop, and I'm just getting started. A moment of silence for the dearly departed. The only fear I know is the one called Stratus. I know of the baddest breaking crew ever established. Congratulations on the 50th year anniversary to the Bronx Boys Rocking Crew. 50 years, and this is what we do. We always stay true.
What's up, people? My name is Abby. I'm original concrete rocker from the Bronx Boys Rocking Crew, Bronx, New York. My name is Powerful Pex.
I've been dancing since 1977.
Oh yeah, well, for the record, my name is Corey Montalvo, aka Icy Ice.
Transition from then, from back in the 70s when I came, and to now it's like saying space. That'll be Jupiter, and we'll be in the Bronx in the hole. Everything was buildings, black, in the park, concrete, nothing but concrete. Everybody getting cut up, dancing, and it was more family over there then than now. Now it's actually even before it was really strict, like blacks and Latinos. Now we got Asians, we got Germans, we got cats from Poland. I mean, we got Puerto Ricans, blacks, whites, Jews, and it looks like some sort of religion for me that's overcome anything I've seen. I never seen an Arab and a Jewish guy hang out like they hang out here. Never in my life. I don't see no blacks, no whites hang out the way they hang out here. Our culture, we learn to embrace it, and it's an amazing culture, man.
One of the things I experience is like a lot of people, a lot of these young cats that are coming up don't acknowledge the history of what's, you know, what this day brought. And, you know, I mean, like Cross One, I mean, he's contributed to hip hop so much. You know what I'm saying? There's kids that walk right by him and don't acknowledge. They don't acknowledge who this man is. They don't even acknowledge who this man is. You know, myself and several others. And that's
about the dance in general, like how the dance has evolved.
The dance evolved, like, I don't know what they're doing now, what kind of drugs they taking. What I could say about that, wow, it's so different. Before it was just top rocking and floor rocking. And now it's like they defy gravity in some way. I've never seen amazing, just the techniques people got and the girls being involved. The girls, I give big ups to the girls. Big up to all, especially the Japanese girls. It's just Momo and them, they just amazing. I don't know, I was just, and it's just a big transition. It's like you take a moth, you take it, you know, when they're in the sack, and when it comes out, it's big, beautiful butterfly. That's what's the big transition from the cocoon to the butterfly, which is now. It's amazing for me, man. You know. That's
for us in particular, it was really a way for us to be able to gain back a sense of identity. That because you have to keep in mind that we come from a totally different demographic. Back then, you know, there wasn't really much that we had for us to really look forward to. A lot of us came from very dysfunctional homes too. You know, some of us were exposed to things like substance abuse or alcoholism, domestic violence and things of that nature. At the same time too, we had a government that pretty much disenfranchised us as a community as well. So again, we didn't have anything really to identify with. What hip hop did for us essentially was that he gave us a chance to be able to get back a sense of identity within the youth culture, but at the same time, be able to dictate it according to our terms. So in other words, when you had, for example, the graffiti artists, when they went out there and they did what they did, they said, well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bomb this train, but that's how we're going to do it. And it doesn't make a difference what everybody else says. That was the same thing with the B-boy. The B-boy was able to go out there, he was able to put text and vocabulary into his moves, but he's the one that called the shots at the end of the day. So it's something that essentially became us. And that's why I think because it was such a radical social revolution that came out of pretty much out of nothing, that's the reason why today you see the fruit of that very impact today. I mean, of course, unbeknownst to us, none of us would have never known that we were going to have the kind of impact that 25, 30 years for some of us, the culture has had today. But we're certainly more than happy to be able to see the fruit of that.
Peace, this is Brother Ernie Panicoli, hip-hop photographer, Grammy Museum artist, and Hip-Hop Hall of Famer. I'm also the author of Hip-Hop at the End of the World and my new book, Stark, Kiss the Ring. I'm asking you to support the Bronx Boys' 50th anniversary. Bronx Boys rocking. Think about that, 50 years.
I have spoken numerous times about the foundational B-Boy crews. TBB, the Zulu Kings, Star Child of Rock, the CC Crew, the Rockwell Association, TDK, the Mexican Crew, all from the areas of 118, 129, St. Martin of Tours, Crotona, that whole area, Mapes. I've spoken about these crews, and there have been numerous people who have said either those crews never existed or nobody knew about those crews. Well, recently, I was on a live with Stanley Harris, the Green-Eyed Genie, and he was coming at me. He was coming at me pretty rough, saying I didn't know what I was talking about, but me and him have been having some correspondence on Messenger. And he actually verifies what I'm saying when it comes to those crews and the fact that the people that keep saying that those crews, they didn't go over there. There was another scene happening over there. So I want you to hear from the horse's mouth himself about those crews.
Ladies and gentlemen of the whole culture all over the world of hip-hop, Doc is telling the truth about the crews, the Latino crews in that area. Green-Eyed Genie grew up with them. They went to school with me. I lived there. Chingaling area. If you know the motorcycle gang, the Chingaling, and the Black Falcons, it's all in that same area. Yo wasn't there, so you can't speak on it. He's speaking facts. Doc, when you're talking about those Latino groups in that area, you're telling the truth about that. I won't never dispute that because I was among them, because I went to school with them. I went to public school with them, and they was breakdancing and coming to the jams back then. So it's factual when you say those crews that was in that area because I grew up with them. See, I'm from Bronxdale and Bronx River. So I was moving all over the Bronx because I was getting evicted a lot and I was moving all over and I became a legend moving all over the Bronx. That's why I be talking about I'm the creator of hip hop. Nobody can't tell me no stories because they didn't live everywhere. I did. So when you tell those stories and you be saying about those crews, they was over there and you're telling the truth, brother. I give you that with the crews because I grew up with them. Some of the best break dances in hip-hop history come off of Crotona. Belmont was the Latino guys that was right up there in Belmont Park. We used to be right up there. They was break dancing up there. I think that was the CC Crew. I remember, what's his name? I talked with him not that long ago. He's all old and everything, and he still lives in the building over there, and he's old. He's up there way up in age. Me and him was talking for hours. I'm gonna find his number in my phone. I got it, and we're gonna talk, us three. You might know him. Everything you be saying, none of them from over there, from the Bronx River, from the Soundview, from the 9 Project, they wasn't in that area. So that's why when you be talking, you get a lot of people be disputing with you and all of that, because they wasn't in that area. I was. That's why when you say all of that stuff you be saying, I was already in that area with what you be saying with those guys. I'm from Crotona. I'm from Belmont. I'm from with the Chingalings. I'm from around 118. I'm from that area. That's why when you be talking, I know the things you be saying be true.